"What am I doing here?" Ikenna suddenly asked, looking around Ifeoma's family compound in confusion. Wedding guests stared in shock as the bride-to-be rolled on the ground, screaming confessions about charms and witchcraft. "Where is Chidera? Where is my daughter?" But let me tell you how a loving family almost got destroyed by jealousy, dark magic, and one woman's bitter heart. The morning sun painted the village of Ijumka in golden light as two young girls practiced their cultural dance under the big Iroko tree. Ifeoma and Chidera moved in perfect harmony, their colorful wrappers spinning as they danced to the rhythm of the talking drums echoing from the village square. "One day, we will dance at each other's weddings," Chidera laughed, catching her breath. "Yes, and our children will dance together too," Ifeoma replied. But her eyes were already scanning the village paths, looking for something more exciting than friendship. Years passed, and both girls grew into beautiful young women. The whole village talked about their beauty, but their hearts were very different. While Chidera remained kind and humble, helping her mother with the farm and caring for younger children, Ifeoma spent her time dreaming of wealth and status. When Ikenna, a hard-working young farmer, started showing interest in Ifeoma, she played with his feelings like a cat plays with a mouse. Ikenna was tall, handsome, and muscular. He worked from sunrise to sunset on his farm and had started a small trading business that was growing every month. "Take this yam to your mother," he would say, bringing gifts to Ifeoma's house. "Thank you, Ikenna." She would smile sweetly, accepting his gifts but never giving him hope for marriage. Ifeoma's heart was set on Ugochukwu, the son of Mazi Emeka, the wealthiest man in Ijumka village. She believed that marrying rich was the only way to have a good life. One evening, during the village's cultural festival, Ikenna went to watch Ifeoma dance. But as the music played and the girls moved gracefully, his eyes fell on Chidera instead. There was something different about her, the way she smiled genuinely at everyone, how she helped an old woman who had stumbled, the joy in her dance that came from her heart. After the festival, Ikenna approached Chidera under the big tree, where she often came to fetch water. "Chidera, can we talk?" he asked nervously. She looked up, surprised. "Of course, Ikenna. I have been watching you, and I see a good heart in you. Would you allow me to visit you properly?" Chidera's face lit up with a genuine smile. Unlike Ifeoma, she had noticed Ikenna's character, how he helped other farmers, how he treated everyone with respect, how hard he worked to build something meaningful. "Yes, you can visit me," she said softly. Their courtship was beautiful. Every evening, they would meet under the tree near Chidera's house. Ikenna would tell her about his dreams of expanding his farm and business. Chidera would share her hopes of having a family and contributing to their community. "I don't have much now," Ikenna told her one evening, "but I promise to work hard to give you and our future children a good life." "I don't need much, Ikenna. I need a man who loves me and will be faithful. I see that man in you." They fell deeply in love and got married in a ceremony that brought joy to the whole village. Even Ifeoma attended, though her heart was bitter with envy. Several months later, news spread through Ijumka like wildfire. Ugochukwu was getting married, but not to Ifeoma. He was marrying Stella, the daughter of Mazi Chibuike, the wealthiest man in the neighboring village. When Ifeoma heard the news, she felt like the ground had opened beneath her feet. It finally dawned on her that the rich marry the rich to strengthen their business ties. Her dreams of marrying into wealth crumbled like a mud house in the rainy season. "This is all Chidera's fault," she told herself bitterly. "If she hadn't taken Ikenna from me, I could have had him as a backup plan." But Chidera had taken nothing. Ikenna had freely chosen love over manipulation, genuine care over games. 2 years passed, and Ikenna's hard work began to pay off. His farms expanded across several villages. He employed many farmers and opened shops in different towns where women sold his produce. People began calling him Ikenna, the prosperous. Meanwhile, Ifeoma remained unmarried. As she entered her mid-30s, the young men who had once admired her beauty now sought younger women. The few older men who approached her were poor farmers, the very type she had always rejected. One evening, as Ifeoma watched Ikenna's family from her window, seeing him lift his 3-year-old daughter Grace high in the air while Chidera laughed with joy, her heart filled with poison. "That should be my life," she whispered to herself. "That should be my husband, my child, my happiness." The bitterness in her heart grew like a weed, choking out any remaining goodness. Finally, she made a decision that would change everyone's life. Deep in the forest, far from the village, lived an old woman known for making charms. People whispered about her in fearful tones, crossing themselves when they mentioned her name. "I want a man to leave his wife for me," Ifeoma told the witch. The old woman's eyes glittered in the darkness. "This magic is dangerous. It will destroy more than you know." "I don't care. I want Ikenna to love me instead of Chidera." The witch prepared a black substance in a small bottle. "Rub this on your body before you see him. But know this, what goes around comes around. This magic will return to you threefold." Ifeoma didn't listen to the warning. She took the charm and left. That same night, Chidera had a strange dream. She saw her husband's eyes becoming cloudy, like he was looking at her through dark water. She saw a shadowy figure rubbing something black on her skin before approaching Ikenna. In the dream, she watched helplessly as Ikenna walked away from her and Grace, following the shadow. She woke up with a start, her heart beating fast. "Ikenna, I had a terrible dream," she whispered to her sleeping husband. "It's just a dream, my love. Go back to sleep," he murmured, pulling her close. But the dream felt too real. Chidera remembered Pastor Peter's teachings about spiritual warfare and the importance of prayer when God gives warning dreams. "I must see Pastor Peter tomorrow," she told herself. But morning brought the busy routines of caring for Grace, managing the household, and helping with the business. Days passed, and she forgot about the dream and her plan to visit the pastor. On a bright, sunny morning, Ifeoma rubbed the black charm all over her body. The substance felt cold and made her skin tingle strangely. "Let me see if Ikenna will not leave Chidera and take me as his wife," she said, laughing with a sound that would have frightened children. She went to Ikenna's office in town. The moment he saw her, his eyes became distant and cloudy. It was as if a fog had entered his mind. "Ifeoma," he said in a voice that didn't sound like his own, "you look beautiful." He left his office immediately, abandoning the important business meeting he was supposed to have. He followed Ifeoma to her house, like a man walking in his sleep. At Ifeoma's house, she cooked his favorite meal and spoke to him in sweet words that sank into his charmed mind like honey. "You deserve better than Chidera, Ikenna. Look how successful you've become. You need a woman who understands your status, not a simple village girl." "Yes," Ikenna nodded slowly. "You're right. Promise me you won't accept Chidera anymore. Promise me you'll choose me instead." "I promise," he said, his voice empty of the warmth that usually filled it. That evening, when Ikenna returned home, Chidera noticed the change immediately. Her loving husband, who always greeted her with a hug and asked about her day, walked past her like she was invisible. "Ikenna, welcome home," she said warmly. "Grace has been waiting for you all day." He didn't respond. 3-year-old Grace ran to him with her arms wide open, the way she did every evening. "Papa, Papa, I missed you," she called out in her sweet child's voice. But instead of scooping her up and spinning her around like he always did, Ikenna walked past his daughter without even looking at her. Grace stood in the middle of the room, her little arms still stretched out, confusion written all over her face. "Papa?" she called again, but he had already gone into the bedroom and locked the door. Chidera's heart sank. She knelt down and gathered Grace in her arms. Maybe Papa is very tired today, my love, she whispered, but her own voice was shaking. That night, for the first time since their marriage, Ikenna refused to eat the meal Chidera had prepared. He wouldn't sleep in their bed, instead laying on a mat in the living room. Ikenna, what's wrong? Chidera asked gently. Did something happen at work? Are you feeling sick? He turned away from her without saying a word. The next morning, he left the house without his usual goodbye kiss or his morning prayer with the family. Grace ran after him. Papa, where are you going? Can I come with you? He pushed her aside gently but firmly and walked away. Grace began to cry. Mama, why won't Papa talk to me? Did I do something bad? Chidera's heart broke as she wiped her daughter's tears. No, my love, you didn't do anything bad. Papa is going through something. This pattern continued for 3 days. Ikenna would leave early in the morning and go straight to Ifeoma's house, where he would spend the entire day. He would return at night, refuse to eat, refuse to talk, and sleep away from his family. On the 4th morning, Chidera decided to confront him. She had to know what was happening to her husband. Ikenna, we need to talk. Grace is asking why her father won't hug her anymore. I'm asking why my husband treats me like a stranger. What is going on? Instead of explaining, Ikenna's face twisted with sudden anger. Before Chidera could understand what was happening, his hand struck her cheek with a sharp slap. The sound echoed through the house. Grace, who was playing in the corner, began to cry loudly. Leave my house today, Ikenna shouted. Pack your things and go. Chidera touched her cheek, staring at her husband in shock. In all their years together, he had never raised his voice at her, let alone his hand. Ikenna, what has come over you? This is not you. This is not the man I married. I said leave. He began throwing her clothes and belongings into bags. Take that child and go back to your mother's house. I don't want you here anymore. Little Grace was crying and holding on to her mother's wrapper. Mama, what's happening? Why is Papa angry with us? With tears streaming down her face, Chidera packed what she could carry. As she walked out of the house that had been filled with love just days before, she could feel the eyes of the entire village on her. Neighbors whispered behind their hands, wondering what could have caused such a sudden change in Ikenna. That same afternoon, Ikenna brought Ifeoma to the house, declaring to everyone that he was going to marry her. The village elders tried to reason with him. Ikenna, what about your wife and daughter? Asked Mazi Okafor, an elderly man who had known Ikenna since childhood. What about them? Ikenna replied coldly. I have found a better woman. This is not like you, my son, said another elder. Chidera is a good woman. Grace is your blood. How can you abandon them? But their words fell on deaf ears. Ikenna seemed to hear them from far away, nodding impatiently and dismissing their concerns. At her mother's house, Chidera sat on the floor of her childhood room, holding Grace, who had finally cried herself to sleep. Her mother, Mama Adayeze, sat beside her with tears in her own eyes. My daughter, what happened? Yesterday, Ikenna loved you more than life itself. Today, he throws you out like garbage. I don't understand. I don't understand either, Mama, Chidera whispered. It's like he became a different person overnight. Has he been drinking palm wine? Has he been keeping bad company? No, Mama. He's been going to Ifeoma's house every day for the past few days. But before that, everything was normal. Mama Adayeze's eyes narrowed. Ifeoma? That girl who always wanted what others had? Yes, Mama. My daughter, this thing is not natural. No man changes his heart so completely unless something dark is involved. News of Ikenna's planned marriage to Ifeoma spread through the village like fire in dry grass. People shook their heads in disbelief. Some blamed Chidera, saying she must have done something terrible to drive her husband away. Others whispered about juju and dark magic. As the days passed, Grace kept asking for her father. Mama, when is Papa coming to take us home? I don't know, my love. Maybe if I'm very good, Papa will remember he loves us? Each innocent question was like a knife in Chidera's heart. She watched her daughter's bright smile fade as days turned into weeks and Papa never came. One evening, Grace fell sick with a fever. She lay on the mat, calling weakly for her father. "I want Papa," she whispered. "Please bring Papa." Chidera held her daughter close, feeling helpless. The local medicine man said Grace's sickness came from emotional shock. Her young heart couldn't understand why her beloved father had suddenly disappeared from her life. Meanwhile, Ikenna was busy preparing for his wedding to Ifeoma. He bought expensive clothes, jewelry, and everything needed for traditional marriage rites. The villagers watched in amazement as he spent his wealth on a woman he had barely spoken to just weeks before. "It's like he's not himself," people whispered. "Look at his eyes. They are not the same. Something is not right about this whole thing." But Ikenna couldn't hear their concerns. The charm had wrapped around his mind like thick fog, making him see only what Ifeoma wanted him to see. The night before the traditional marriage ceremony, Chidera knelt beside Grace's sleeping form and prayed with tears streaming down her face. "God, if I have offended you, punish me. But please don't let my innocent child pay the price. She doesn't understand why her papa abandoned her. Her little heart is breaking, and I don't know how to fix it." She prayed until her knees were sore and her voice was hoarse. As she prayed, something stirred in her memory. The dream she had forgotten. The shadow figure, the black substance, her husband's cloudy eyes. "Oh my God," she whispered. "The dream. Why didn't I listen to the dream?" Without waiting for morning, she wrapped Grace in a blanket and carried her sleeping child to the church. She banged on Pastor Peter's door until he opened it, surprised to see her at such a late hour. "Chidera, what's wrong? Is Grace all right?" "Pastor, I need your help. Something terrible is happening, and I think it's spiritual warfare." She told him about the dream, about Ikenna's sudden change, about everything that had happened. Pastor Peter's face grew serious. "My daughter, when God gives warning dreams, we must act immediately. The enemy doesn't waste time." "Pastor, my husband is getting married to another woman tomorrow. Is it too late?" "It's never too late for God, but we must pray with faith and urgency. Wake up, Grace. We're going to pray as a family." Little Grace, though sick and tired, knelt beside her mother and the pastor. She didn't understand everything that was happening, but she knew they were praying for Papa. "Jesus, please bring Papa back," she prayed in her small voice. "Tell him Grace loves him very much." Pastor Peter laid hands on them both. "Lord, we come against every charm, every evil manipulation. We break the power of darkness over Ikenna's mind. Set him free, Lord. Restore this family." They prayed through the night. Chidera felt something breaking in the spiritual realm, like chains falling away. At the same time, in Ifeoma's compound, the traditional marriage ceremony was beginning. Ikenna sat on a beautifully decorated chair, dressed in his finest traditional attire. The whole village had come to witness this strange wedding. Ifeoma glowed with triumph, wearing expensive clothes and jewelry that Ikenna had bought for her. The ceremony proceeded according to tradition. The elders presented kolanut, the families exchanged pleasantries, and musicians played traditional songs. But many guests felt uneasy. Something didn't feel right about the whole celebration. Finally, it was time for the most important part, the payment of the bride price. Ikenna stood up with a bag full of money to officially make Ifeoma his wife. "People of Ijumka," the chief priest announced, "we have come to the moment where Ikenna will pay the bride price for Ifeoma, making her his legal wife, according to our traditions." As Ikenna stepped forward with the money, a sudden, piercing scream filled the air. Ifeoma began writhing on the ground, rolling in the dust and crying out in agony. I confess," she screamed. "I charmed him, I used juju on him." The wedding guests stepped back in shock and fear. Some of the women began to cry. The elders looked at each other in confusion. Yes, I was envious, Ifeoma continued screaming, rolling on the ground. I couldn't stand to see Chidera happy. I went to the witch doctor. I charmed Ikenna to leave his wife. At that exact moment, the fog cleared from Ikenna's mind. He looked around, confused and disoriented. What am I doing here? He asked, his voice sounding like his own for the first time in weeks. Where is Chidera? Where is my daughter? The charm had backfired on Ifeoma. All the evil she had sent out was returning to her threefold, just as the witch doctor had warned. Without waiting for explanations, Ikenna ran from the compound. He ran through the village paths, his heart pounding with the realization of what he had almost done. He ran straight to the church where he could hear voices praying. He burst through the church doors to find Chidera, Grace, and Pastor Peter on their knees in prayer. "Chidera!" he cried out. She looked up, and for the first time in weeks, she saw her real husband looking back at her. The cloudiness was gone from his eyes. Grace jumped up and ran to him. "Papa! Papa, you came back!" Ikenna fell to his knees and gathered his daughter in his arms, tears streaming down his face. "My baby girl, Papa is so sorry. Papa was sick, but I'm better now. I knew you would come back, Papa. I prayed for you every night." Ikenna looked at Chidera, shame and regret written all over his face. "My wife, I don't deserve your forgiveness. I don't even deserve to be called your husband. I abandoned you and our daughter. I almost married another woman. I don't know how to make up for what I did." Chidera walked over to them, tears streaming down her face. She knelt beside her husband and daughter, completing their family circle. "Ikenna, you were not yourself. I saw it in a dream, but I was too slow to act on it. What matters is that you're back, and we're together. But I hurt you. I hurt Grace. I slapped you and threw you out of our home. The charm made you do those things. The real you would never hurt us." Pastor Peter watched the family reunion, with tears in his own eyes. This is the power of love and prayer. God has restored what the enemy tried to destroy. Meanwhile, back at the wedding compound, Ifeoma's family was dealing with their daughter's public confession and breakdown. The shame was overwhelming. The wedding guests had scattered, and the whole village now knew the truth about what had happened. Some young men from the village brought Ifeoma to the church, where Pastor Peter prayed for her deliverance. After hours of prayer, she became calm and normal again, but the damage was done. Her reputation was destroyed, and her conscience was heavy with guilt. "I'm sorry," she whispered to Chidera when she saw her. "I'm so sorry for what I did to your family." "I forgive you, Ifeoma," Chidera replied. "But you need to forgive yourself and ask God to heal your heart from envy and bitterness." Ifeoma's parents, ashamed of their daughter's actions, sent her to live with relatives in the city, hoping she could start over and learn to be a better person. A month later, Ikenna organized a ceremony to renew his vows with Chidera. The whole village came to celebrate, this time with genuine joy. The elders blessed their union, and the community rallied around the family that had been tested by fire but emerged stronger. As part of the celebration, Chidera and the village women performed the same cultural dance she and Ifeoma had learned as children. But now, Grace danced beside her mother, her little feet trying to follow the steps. "Mama, teach me that dance," Grace said afterwards. "I want to dance like you." "Of course, my daughter. And maybe someday, you'll teach it to your own daughter." Ikenna watched his wife and daughter together, gratitude filling his heart. He had almost lost everything that mattered because of one woman's envy and dark magic. But love, prayer, and the innocence of a child had brought him back. That evening, as the family sat together under the stars, Grace curled up between her parents. "Papa, will you always stay with us now?" "Yes, my princess. Papa will never leave you and Mama again." "Promise?" "I promise." As Grace fell asleep in her father's arms, Ikenna and Chidera planted a small tree in their compound. a symbol of their family's new beginning and their commitment to grow stronger together. The story of what happened in Ifeoma village spread far and wide, teaching people important lessons: that envy destroys the one who harbors it, that true love can overcome any darkness, that prayer has power to break every chain, and that children's innocent love can heal the deepest wounds. From that day forward, whenever young people in the village were tempted by jealousy or bitterness, the elders would tell them the story of Ifeoma, Chidera, and Ikenna, reminding them that contentment and genuine love are the greatest treasures anyone can possess. And Grace grew up knowing that no matter what challenges life might bring, the power of love and family could overcome anything. Moral lessons. This story teaches us that envy destroys from within, while true beauty is found in kindness and humility. It reminds us that love is built on sincerity, not status, and that prayer holds the power to break even the strongest chains of darkness. Above all, forgiveness heals not only individuals, but entire communities, proving that peace and wisdom flourish where hearts choose love over jealousy. If this story touched you, don't just keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs hope and a reminder of the power of love over envy. Subscribe now for more African stories that inspire, heal, and transform. And remember, true wealth is in love, family, and faith.